Who you gonna call? COONBUSTERS. This is Dr. Randy Short. It is 9:33 p.m. It is Tuesday, the 19th of January, 2021. And the inauguration isn't done. This is a special Angry Black Men's Forum, Angry Black Men's Book Club Forum. Yes, we will be doing some reading tonight, but I thought it would be an unusual and incredible treat. We have the only DC native, Reverend Dr. Ray Fauntroy, a musician, a producer, an artist, an activist, a human rights defender, civil rights fighter, entrepreneur, and leader. He is none other than Ray Fauntroy, who is the younger brother of a Tuskegee Airman and the first Black congressman for Washington, D.C., who in turn was the number 3 man at the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, who worked with the late Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. Ray Fauntroy is a leader in his own right who often served as a protector, chauffeur, escort, and so forth, and security detail for none other than Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, and was the president for many years of the Miami-Dade County Southern Christian Leadership Conference. Long before you saw mass incarceration programs to liberate people who were held behind bars, Reverend Dr. Ray Fauntroy was effective in ending two things: the stigmatization of all Haitians as having HIV/AIDS, and second to that, forcing the U.S. government to remove Haitians from being kept in concentration camps where they were brutalized and horribly treated. So I am honored today to have the Reverend Dr. Ray Fauntroy, also very close friends to the beloved chanters and blues and an R&B diva, Betty Wright. How are you, Brother Ray?
Well, I'm alive and well. I thank God for that.
Well, I'm glad you're alive and well. I'm good. I'm good. I'm warm, and I'm just waiting for either somebody to go to jail or for the administrations to change or for us to have a military dictatorship. And so I'm okay.
Would you repeat that? I didn't get all of that.
Oh, I'm here sitting waiting for either military dictatorship or for there to be a change of administration, but I'm good otherwise.
And, I hear you. I understand.
And I want to welcome you. You're an honorary COONBUSTER, and this is what we call the Angry Black Men's Book Club. And this is the first forum. I'm going to call this Angry Black Men's Book Forum because instead of me reading, I have a phenomenal guest. You are in your 8th decade, so you've been here for a while. You've seen a lot. If you could just quickly let the audience, right now there are, and I told people I'd come right back, there are approximately 20 people that I'm aware of listening, although we're at present on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 platforms at one time. So there may be more people. Now there are 24 people. Come in the room. This is Ray Fauntroy. If you want to hear some stuff about Betty Wright, if you want to hear some real stories about Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, if you want to hear about some coons, and he will tell you who's a coon. If you want to know what's going on, join me. This is, I'm going to put his name up here. People don't read the description. You know, I could have just did another program. I could have just ended one and put another up, but I didn't want to do that. I always take the time to write and give a description. This is Reverend Dr. Ray Fauntroy. He is the younger brother of Walter Fauntroy. Walter Fauntroy was one of the most and remains one of the most important Black activists of the last 100 years in our community. He's still alive. Ray Fauntroy is a graduate of the famous Dunbar High School. He graduated what? In the 50s?
1957.
1957. Okay. My mother graduated in 1960. So, Ray, you went to Dunbar with my aunt, whose name was Josephine, who I think you knew. Josephine Lancaster.
It's a long time ago. I don't remember everybody, but
Yeah, no, you'd remember her. She, if you remember I Love Lucy.
I Love Lucy.
The show, yes.
Oh, I don't.
You never saw that show? I don't believe that.
I may have seen it, but it's been a long time.
Okay.
So many shows.
All
so
right.
many wars.
All right, I'll leave it alone. And you had a brother that served in the Tuskegee Airmen, and of course, you even used to periodically drive Martin Luther King around. Since we were celebrating Martin Luther King's birthday, let's just kick this off. How was Martin Luther King to you? What kind of man was Martin Luther King?
He was a powerful man, a strong man. He took a lot of stuff. He did things that I would never have done. And one of the things that I recall most is when they had the march on Selma. I was supposed to go. As a matter of fact, my brother assigned me to Dr. King to pick him up at the airport, take him wherever he had to go when he would come to Washington, White House, the churches, wherever.
Okay, and that's your brother, Walter Edward Fauntroy?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And so I had to be very close to Dr. King in that regard. I got an opportunity to be in meetings, and I was a young man, so I didn't. I just took things, and I didn't have anything to say. I just learned, and I learned the ropes through the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Walter Fauntroy, and many other ministers who put that organization together. So I've been very fortunate and blessed to have been in the company of these men.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, I have to mention Marvin Gaye and Van McCoy and Donny Hathaway. We were all friends. We all
okay, so let's stop for a second. Now, Marvin Gaye's brother, did you know Frankie Gaye?
I knew the Gaye family, yes. Absolutely.
Okay. Now, what you need to know is that Marvin's mother was my grandfather's cousin. You know how all we people in D.C. are related to each other. We just don't always. We all are.
Yeah, we're all related, and we just have to learn to love and respect one another, mm-hmm. and do unto others as let them do unto you. Mm-hmm. That is our mission.
Van McCoy.
Yes, Van McCoy. We started the Starlighters right there I don't know if you all remember the group. The Starlighters right there in Dunbar Auditorium, because he was in the choir, I was in the choir. Bernard Wisnut, Paul Comedy.
What about Covey? Was Covey the one that wrote Chain of Fools? I know he used to sing with people. Now, was he someone that you knew?
We knew him, but he's not. He wasn't.
He's not from D.C. He's from someplace else.
We knew him, but that was just about it. These are the people that I grew up with.
Marvin went to Eastern High School? Not Eastern, but Western, which would have been Central High School.
No, he went to Cardozo.
But they changed the name. Cardozo wasn't always the name.
Oh, well, that was when the white folk had it.
Yeah, when the white people had it. So when did it become Cardozo? When he started going?
Yeah, I guess it was 54, somewhere in there.
Okay, so they changed the name from Central to Cardozo. Okay, fine. So Marvin went to Cardozo. He didn't go to the same high school as you.
No. But we would sing. We had a troupe that came out of Dunbar, led by Captain William Rumsey.
Oh, stop. Hold it. Wait a minute. Okay, guess what, Ray? My mother used to sing with that group with Rumsey.
A lot of people did. A lot of people did. We came. We would have a bus, and we'd go to reform schools, hospitals, old folks' home, and we'd all perform for them.
So yeah, my mother was in the same. My mother was in the same. Probably traveled with you. My mother used to sing with Rumsey. See how small the world is. So let me see. Now Rumsey. Now, did you know Harvey Fuqua? Or did you meet Fuqua?
Yeah, I did. I met Harvey. As a matter of fact, I spoke with him a few years ago. You know, and I haven't.
Didn't he die about 2010?
Yeah, it must have been somewhere around there. It's been a long time.
Okay,
but,
so let me stop and help the people understand. Yeah, I know who Marvin Gaye is. Van McCoy, who Ray Fauntroy made reference to, is one of the creators of disco. His best known song is "The Hustle." Do the hustle. Okay, and then he's one. Now you mentioned Harvey Fuqua is from a group called the Moonglows, who had a big song called "Sincerely." Sincerely was ripped off by a white female group called the McGuire Sisters, who had one of the biggest records in recording history when they did Sincerely. One of the members that joined up with Harvey Fuqua, who later went to Motown, was Marvin Gaye. And who else was it in this group of famous people? You mentioned another name. And y'all all started, well, you were in a group at Dunbar High School, the Starlighters, with Van McCoy. Let me put the name up here. Okay, so Van McCoy, and you went to school together. I didn't know that. And Van McCoy died about 1975. He died young. It was amazing.
79 it was.
I'm sorry.
We started the Starlighters there in that auditorium. I later broke away from the group and joined another group called the Ambassadors. So some of the listeners might remember them. Shirley Struthers and Leon Barber and Sloan Blocker. We had a strong group. Matter of fact, we were stronger than the rest of them. We won the talent shows and all that back in the day.
At the Howard Theater, or where did you perform?
We performed at the Howard Theater at 16 years old. We won the Jackson Lowe talent show, which was held over there at the Republic Theater, Lincoln Theater, one of those two.
Right.
And we won. We win most of the contests that we played. You know, we were in. Mm-hmm. But you know, it was a great time in my life where I learned the music as much as I could at that time, I should say. The music industry. We were on stage with Gladys Knight and with a group called the Heartbeats. And
what about the Clovers? Did you know the Clovers?
Yes, we did. I did. Yeah, I knew the Clovers. They were older than we, but you know, they were. We looked up to them.
They should have been big. They should have been big when you were in high school. Were they? The Clovers.
Oh yes. Yeah.
Yeah. The Clovers are from D.C.
Definitely, and part of the doo-wop era.
Yes, well, and see, most people don't know that D.C. the Clovers were like the Temptations in terms of doo-wop at one point. Let me do a song, a piece of that. What's it, you know?
Doo-wop
okay, you know the song they used to do? One early morning when I was walking, I met a woman. We started talking. You know, she had me over for a few nips. But all she had was mint juleps. One mint julep was the cause of it all. They had that song, and there was another song. You the cutest girl I ever did see. Sure do you like your peaches, wanna shake your tree, lovey-dovey, lovey-dovey all the time. Oh man, come on. Y'all used to jam on that. Now you can't tell me. I love that song. And what's the other song? What's that song? Do 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 This is what we're doing for blowing your top. Oh, I'm just a poor young boy. And it's and these girls about to drive me wild. You know them song? The way they rock and shock and call me angel child. I mean, the Clovers were bad. The Clovers were bad. I love them.
We had a lot of dynamite groups back in those days, and that's why I had so much, and still do, so much respect for James Brown, Sam Cooke. Stories that we don't know about these men.
Talk about Sam Cooke for a second.
Well, what I loved about them, him, Sam Cooke, James Brown, Otis Redding, they weren't going to take any more of this white dominant stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they were stealing our music. You write a hit, you come out with a hit, next thing you know, the white boy got it, and they wouldn't play our music on the white stations, which were the largest stations with the largest listening audience.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And so we had to, we did our own thing, what we called the Chitlin circuit. We, did all the black clubs and nightclubs and the like, and black radio stations.
Mm-hmm. So WUST and places like that you would go to here in DC?
WOK and UST, they were our stations there. These other stations that came along when they saw we were really, black folk were buying, so they had to shut us down, and the way they did, they just came in, bought us out, and started using our music.
I have a question. Do you remember the two events at about 10 years apart? The students at Howard University had protests on U Street in 1944 about segregation there. And are you familiar with that? Paulie Murray and these other people from Harvard Law School that were protesting?
Yeah, I remember, but I was just a kid, a baby at that time. And I do remember that there was some confusion. I didn't know what it was, of course.
Okay, well, what about the Brown case? That's 10 years later. Do you remember that? You would have been in high school when the Brown versus Board of Education case.
Yeah, but my attitude then and now is that to hell with them. We don't need their education. We need to educate ourselves and to speak the truth to our people. Well, we have been in their system. We've been miseducated, lied to, and lied on. Mm-hmm. So it's been my attitude that until we take charge of our own communities, our own cities, and come together and build what we know we can build, we have some great teachers among us. Mm-hmm. We've got great institutions mm-hmm. among us, but we have not learned to finance our own cause.
Right.
Martin Luther King Jr., the SCLC was built on the backs of black people in churches who gave 10, 15, 25 cents of their money to make sure that this organization grew. And then when it started growing and Dr. King started making some real noise around the world, along came the corporations and the white boys. They came and they bought in, and then they tried to take it over. When he wouldn't go for them, then they killed him. So we know how that works. And I still say today that if we're going to change, if there's going to be a change, it's going to be us that change. Nobody can do this for us but us. So we've got to wake up, stop playing the game, come together, build what we can build, and defend everything that we have. And I say defend it like everybody else defends what they have and controls what they have. We need to do the same thing.
Got a question.
I've been calling unity for years now.
Well, we're going to have unity. We're going to get it. It's coming. Now, I want to ask you, you were there 3 years after you finished high school. Do you remember the RFK riots? Or 4 years after you finished high school? Yeah,
I remember. We were having the riots every week with these football games and these basketball games. We were fighting like crazy. And, it wasn't anything new. What was new was we were getting to stand up against these white folk who were getting obnoxious, and they still are. So, yes, I remember that.
Okay, let me break this down to the people listening. They would have what's called in D.C. the All-Star Game, where the best football teams in the city would go to the stadium. I don't know what they called the stadium then. It was renamed for President Robert F. Kennedy later. What did you call the stadium then? National Stadium? What was the name of the stadium then in '61?
I don't remember.
You don't remember? Yeah, we've been calling it RFK for so long. So if for anybody old that corrects me, please understand I'd like to call it the original name, but the Washington Stadium, the stadium here in Washington, that's the best thing I can say it, which later was called Robert F. Kennedy Stadium, named for the assassinated president. The blacks and whites, the first real black aggressive pushback against racism in the country occurred here in DC. And I guess I don't know how the black team did, but the blacks and whites really got into it in the parking lot, and it must have gone in the favor of the young black people beating up the white folks, because after that, people started moving out of the city. Not only that, that changed the city, the nature of the city until recently. It was basically a place where black folks, at least in a certain level, were not going to be treated any old kind of way by anybody. And this is before Watts. It's before other places, before Harlem. The young black folks put it down. They beat up the police. They beat up everybody and weren't taking it. And it's one of those under-discussed things of the 60s, is that it didn't start in Watts, and it didn't start in Harlem. It started here, when people says, you're not going to treat us in no kind of way. Not only will you not,
it started way before that,
right?
Because it started when, for example, in South Carolina, in North Carolina, and Georgia, and Mississippi, blacks had enough this Ku Klux Klan mentality that felt that they could come do anything they wanted to do, and then lock you out of life. Mm-hmm. So it started before that. What happened in D.C. With the division, the manufactured division among our people, we started discriminating against each other. You're light skin, you're dark skin, you're a Baptist, you're a Catholic, you're a Muslim,
you're Pentecostal.
That we used against us. Mm-hmm. And we did not pay attention to what was happening to all of us. Mm-hmm. So my position then and now is that we've got to stop. We've got to come together and understand it ain't about none of that religion. It ain't about none of that organizational divisions that they use. Everything they've used to come against us. And I always say, no weapon formed against us will prosper, but it won't prosper if we stand together.
Right.
If we continue to allow the system to divide us, they will prosper. So they're running everything, they own everything right now, and I have no problem saying it. And until we don't have to argue and fight with people. We just have to turn to each other. We got to put our money in our own communities. We've got to build. We've got to take back what they took from us, mm-hmm. And you take it back by organizing. You take it back by spending your money in your own community with your own people until you can build up an economic base that's going to take care of these young people. It's going to teach them another way to live. You don't have to sell drugs. You don't have to use drugs. You don't have to rob and steal and kill and come against your own people. There is a better way, and we can do it. All we got to do is understand and come together and follow the leadership of those who are not trying to stuff their own pockets, but to help all of our people.
Now, let me ask you, last year, two people that you knew from long ago past, C.T. Vivian, as well as John Lewis. And I think you know that Kalia Liddell Lafayette Clark had a massive heart attack or stroke a few months back. You knew all of them from way back. But
yes.
And I'm going to reach out to Clark later this weekend. You were at a meeting because C.T. Vivian when we would talk about Martin Luther King, and I talked to Dick Gregory and others about Martin Luther King, but C.T. Vivian brought it to my attention that there was a meeting where Martin Luther King was trying to find a way to make certain that Black people had guaranteed income, guaranteed health care, and all of this, not in 1968, but in 1957.
I was in that meeting.
You were in the meeting. So I want to repeat to y'all, Martin Luther King wanted us all to get MFM in 1957. Martin Luther King wanted reparations for Black people in 1957. Let me say it again. Martin Luther King wanted reparations for Black people in 1957. One more time. The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, before there was a March on Washington, wanted reparations for Black people because of their suffering. If you haven't been told that, you've been lied to about who Martin Luther King is. Reverend Dr. Ray Fauntroy, can you repeat? Dr. King was talking about health care and making remedies for Black people having been enslaved. Am I correct?
Well, yes, you're right. But what the basis of the issue was at the time, and one of the gentlemen in that meeting, I'll never forget his face and what he had to say, but I cannot remember his name. He said, "Dr. King, this is an economic war." He said, "We have to build an economic base." And he was absolutely right. He was an accountant. I don't remember his name. I see his face now. And I was very young. I mean, I was just out of high school, and I didn't know a lot of this, but I knew truth. And what he wanted to do, and what Dr. King did start after that, was what was called the Operation Breadbasket. And the Operation Breadbasket was to take back our economic power. And we do that by opening the corner stores, and stop carrying your money to these people who carry your money out of your community and don't even want you in the store, but they'll take your money. So what Dr. King was attempting to do then, and was sabotage from within the organization.
Can you say who sabotaged it?
Well, it's hard to say who.
Can you say some of the people? Can you say some of the people that sabotaged it?
Well, I don't have a problem, because I'm not afraid to deal with this, because I think that people need to understand why we're in the condition we're in. We're in the condition we're in because one of the reasons, I should say, is because there were backstabbers in our organization that took the word out of the organization to the enemy, got paid for it, okay, and assisted in keeping us down. At that time, in my opinion, my personal opinion, it was Jesse.
Jesse Lewis Jackson undermined Operation Breadbasket, at least from your standpoint.
That's from my opinion. And now he wasn't the only one. There were others, but I don't.
There were others, but Jesse is the one that you can remember.
Now, I just had a gentleman to say to me tonight, previous conversation, that you have to get along with the people who are in control, and you have to play the game with them in order to get something. But that's a mentality that I loathe. Because anybody who plays the game with the enemy, as far as I'm concerned, is the enemy. You have to have your own game.
I agree. I agree with you.
Yeah.
And now, look, y'all, what the doctor's saying is that we got to have our own. And what people are saying to him, that same old SIMP coon boule thing that you got to go along to get along. And by the way, you know who went along to get along? The Jews that went to the concentration camps. We don't need to go down the same way.
No, we're not. We're not going down the same. We're going to fight this time. It's not going to be the same crap they did before. They're going to come and take you out your house, rape your wife, and kill your children. No, that ain't going to happen. These young brothers, Betty Wright said something to me before she died.
Betty Wright said something to you.
Yes, she said, Ray, our generation would die for freedom. But this generation will kill for freedom. And that's exactly what it is. It's about time. you stand up. And as I said back in the day, when the deacons of defense stood up, we all should have stood up, but we didn't. So I'm hoping this time, if they decide to come that way, that we all stand up.
Do you know who I spoke to this morning? Who I called before 7 o'clock this morning?
No idea.
I called Chuck Hicks this morning.
Okay.
You know who I'm referring to?
No, tell me.
Chuck Hicks's father started the Deacons for Defense. I literally called him this morning. You need to meet him. If you don't know him, I'll send you his number today.
Yeah, no problem.
He's a very good brother. His name is Chuck Hicks. His email is Mr. Black History. He's a very good. The Deacons for Defense, you guys, was a black paramilitary militia to defend black folks down in VOCALIST, Louisiana. And these folks had machine guns and everything else, and they didn't take any mess off nobody. And they used to provide protection for the people in the Congress of Racial Equality, known as CORE, or Martin Luther King Southern Christian Leadership Conference, as well as SNCC. Now, for all of you that are on the YouTube feed, hold on one second. If you want to help what I'm doing, because I'm going to have Chuck Hicks. I just asked Chuck, whose mother's house they tried to set on fire within the last few years. Show you how vicious they are. His mother's 92 years old. For anyone that wants to bless the Randy Short channel with the Angry Black Men's Book Club Forum and COONBUSTERS, my Cash App is Dr. Randy Short. Dr. Randy Short. The D is capitalized, the R in Randy is capitalized, the S in Short is capitalized, and people should not worry. If you have a buck is good if that's what you are willing to use, because I want to do more than just talk. And by the way, I need to let everybody on this conversation know I am headed back south on Saturday. I don't know how many transmissions I'll do. I will be back meeting with farmers and other people planning for what we do in 2021, because it's not planning time yet. But to meet with the Ag First Kentucky, which is a black cooperative established last year in Russellville, Kentucky. So if you don't see me, don't worry, I'm not sick. I want to do more than run my fat black mouth. I want to actually do something. So if you don't see me, know that I'm doing something, and it isn't just for me. However, doing for oneself is good. Now, let me again say to you, Reverend Dr. Ray Fauntroy, who's friends to Betty Wright and knows all of the R&B stars, a veteran of the Chitlin Circuit, a veteran of the Civil Rights Movement, and all of that. He is a wonderful man, an intelligent man, a man that went up against President Ronald Reagan when he was at his peak. One of the most powerful white men that has ever existed is Ronald Reagan. And this little voice you're hearing made the President of the United States bow. This is why I'm so critical of Coons. We have greatness running all through us, whether we recognize it or not. I have seen small or ordinary people stand up to the greatest nation in the world and make it deliver if they had a few people helping them. We don't need everybody, but we need some unity, and we need people that are committed. And everybody can play a role in helping us turn Black America around. Everybody can do something. I will encourage all of you, whether COVID stays or goes, to avoid any organization or institution that does not take an active role. In particular, I'm making reference to Negro preachers and Negro churches that simply want you to fund them, and they demobilize and disorganize people, where all your activity is concentrated within the four walls of some cathedral to a Negro that's not even trying to live the Bible that they preach out of, or Negress, or the whole staff. Find something that you can do that is tangible, that is concrete, that will help other people. We can too win. We can too beat. We are capable many times over of winning. Winning is a mindset. By the way, I want to say to you, when one of the lessons that Dr. Fauntroy is saying, that we have to support one another, those of you that support me, I'm glad you do. I have not financialized my YouTube channel. If I had, they would have shut me down weeks ago. They have a real problem with folks who don't ask them for money. The only reason that this platform is up is because I haven't gone to them, because the minute they give me something, they tell me what I can and cannot talk about. Don't worry, I'm going to BitChute. Don't worry, I was talking to friends of mine, one who has a server and another one who's buying a server, and we're going to have our own voices on platforms that are ours, that don't have to worry about how we communicate. I just want to let you know that, yes, I do talk a lot, but I like to do. And I love this man, Ray Fauntroy. We have to have him back. He is a great man. He is a significant man. This is just the beginning. Let me see. I'm going to probably shut up and let him talk for 20 more minutes. I know that you need to rest. Am I correct, Brother Ray? And if you do, I'm going to let it go for 20 minutes. I'm going to stop. And I'm going to see if I can reach back out to Brother Sam, because I have another legend. But I have sent you Sambaya's phone number, and I'll make certain I'll send it again. I want you to call him, Ray, because you and him know each other from Harlem and from all around. And as you know, I like networking people. Folks are terrified of networking. They're terrified of folks who bring people together. You don't even have to be a player. And I want to say to any of you out there, you don't have to be the black spokesperson or the figure or the face, but if you could get 5 or 6 people together to do something positive, and then they know another 5 or 6 people and so forth, it will build. We don't have to compete with people who had a 400-year jump on us to be where they are, but we have to start somewhere, and start quick, fast, in a hurry. Brother Fauntroy, keep going. I'm so, you know, you can talk about Martin Luther King, you can talk about Miami, you can talk about Mandela, you can talk about crooked black leadership, you can talk about the Nation of Islam, whatever it is you want to talk about, go for it. I'm listening. And you have 100 people listening right at this moment.
So first, I'd like to just thank you for inviting me, calling me to be a part of this. And I appreciate what you're doing, and I'm in support of what you do. And my message to our people today is, if we don't come together and support our own cause and build our own nation and step away from these demons who are taking everything from us in the process of ruling the world, is what they're attempting to do. But the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. That means me and you as well. And with that belief, I don't worry about whatever somebody else is doing. What I'm concerned about is how we get through, and how will our children get through this out and out attack on God's people. Mm-hmm. And to talk about Miami, for an example, Dick Gregory and I have been very good friends since the 60s. Of course, you know that, Randy, but they may not. And he would come down here in Miami and spend a couple of weeks with me. And one of the things, after I did the Haitian battle, which is what it was, the fight. We got our Haitian brothers out of home detention center, which was a concentration camp. And we got them, into the community.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm back a little bit. When I first moved here, I witnessed the Haitians being brought in off the beach in chains.
In chains.
In chains. With ankle chains, all of that.
So this is in 1980?
That was 1980. And I couldn't believe my eyes. That's what?
Not 1860, but 1980, they were chaining up the black people.
Yes, absolutely. And it was nobody was standing up. Nobody said a word from the black community. And I couldn't understand that. I really, to the day, I don't understand how a community of people could allow people that look like us to go through that and nobody say anything or do anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I hadn't been here a year. I got here in December of '78, and I had gone through a couple of things. I've been the executive secretary for the NAACP. Executive
secretary for the National NAACP or the Washington NAACP?
No, the Miami, Florida, Dade County.
Okay, so you were national secretary for the Miami-Dade County NAACP.
Not national, the local.
I said it, Miami-Dade. I got you, South Florida.
Right. And I could not understand why nobody was saying or doing anything. So a couple of things happened relative to black people, and I just decided to do something about it. Not understanding that I'm a newcomer to this area, and I didn't know then what I know now. The problem then and is now that we will not come together, have not come together, and we're still losing all of the things that we have fought and died for. Mm-hmm. Not only here in
I can't. You need to adjust your mic a little so we can hear you. You're moving, so we're not hearing you.
Yeah, okay. I apologize for that. Not only here in Dade County, Florida, were we not standing up for, together on the issues that have directly affected us, but we weren't doing anything. And so I did some things and caused some problems with the NAACP, of course, and wound up, in big trouble with them. But I stood up against the system that was oppressing us. Mm-hmm. And such other people saw it and they wanted to do something, but they did not know what to do.
Okay, now tell me something. The NAACP, so were they just taking people's money and having big freedom fund dinners and ignoring the suffering of black people? Is that what you're saying? Just raising money and bullshitting? What were they doing?
Well, let me put it like this. There were a lot of things going on among our people that were not being addressed. We were being raped. We were being murdered in jails, hung in jails. The Arthur McDuffie situation.
Yeah. Let me stop 1 second. Arthur McDuffie was a black, I believe, insurance agent who was a veteran, right, who was killed by white Latino police, beaten to death very brutally. And there was a riot in Liberty City in 1981. Was
1980?
80. When, in fact, when President Carter went down there, the people threw bricks and bottles at the presidential motorcade. I remember that. There were many, about 17 people or more killed down there?
There were 18 people murdered.
18 people murdered. And yes, he was a Marine.
15 of them were black people.
Okay.
They had done nothing, standing on corners, just standing around. And drive-by shootings came and bang, bang, bang.
Wow.
I went to Janet Reno.
And Janet Reno is the big, tall, unattractive, praying mantis-looking lesbian. What was her position in Florida then?
She was the Attorney General.
Attorney General for Florida. Okay. No, for the United States.
Not then. She wasn't Attorney General of the state then.
She was, okay, so she's Attorney General for Southern Florida or something, or?
You know, the dates and escape me, so.
But you went to Janet Reno. It's okay. We can, people can look it up.
She was a state attorney. She was a
State's attorney. Okay.
Yeah. So I went to her, and I exposed the police, the people who were riding around shooting out people on the streets. Nothing was ever done about it. No investigation, no arrest. I was the only one saying anything about it. The only one doing anything about it.
Stop for 1 second. He's the only one. In fact, this is something I want to say to everybody listening. This man, who's not from Miami, who's from Washington, goes there, recognizes that black people are being mass murdered, and he's the only one that speaks up. Not even the families who had the victims. I want to talk about the cowardice and the bullshit in our community among, in particular, religious and civic leaders that don't ever speak up or do anything no matter what, unless it's their family being harmed or hurt or killed. And I want to say this to you, everyone listening. Ray's not going to say it because he's a big man. But I'm going to say this about black people when he talks about unity. Nobody's going to die for your asses anymore. Very few people are going to risk theirs. In fact, the more that people make one or two people lose everything they have to speak up for people who won't speak up for themselves discourages things from doing anything but getting worse. And Ray, I've never dealt with what you've dealt with, but I know what it's like to be the only person to say anything. When I don't even have I didn't lose anything. I could just shut up. It's a despicable trait in simp black men and pork chop feminist black women that atrocities, murders, rapes can occur, and the people who are directly connected say and do nothing. It's all it does is encourage the beast to keep coming. And it also is very distressing to people like Fannie Lou Hamer, who I think you probably met in 64 or 63. When did you meet Fannie Lou Hamer?
It was around 64.
Around 64 when you met Fannie Lou Hamer from Mississippi. People like Fannie Lou Hamer that often died young, a lot of times they died out of broken hearts. Why is it just me? Why is it just me? You know, I mean, a lot of black folks who could live good, have a lot, have sacrificed for a huge mass of people who are sorry as hell. I'm just going to say it. Sorry. They won't even back you up when you go to bat for them. And it's a very lonely place when you might see a person do something that you don't agree with or talk to someone that may have I don't know if it happened to Ray, but I've seen black folks who've been standing up who end up facing losing property or being foreclosed on. They lose everything behind helping other people. And a lot of black people, I'm just telling you, a lot of our people are sorry as hell. They're free riders. They'll sit back and watch you die for them, and they wouldn't even give you a cup of ice water. And as a result of that, like you said, Betty Wright said that there's a generation that will kill for freedom. I want to say this to you, and I want you to hear me clearly. I do not advocate, and I'm not suggesting any kind of violence towards anyone except to protect your body and your home. But when a movement comes to a people that want their freedom, when you won't get on code. When you are stupid and selfish, you increase the likelihood that when people say they want change, they'll be willing to even take your life to get it because you're in the way. I beg you to not be in the way of change. I beg you to get on code. There may come a time in the future where you're going to have to be braver than what you're prepared to be. You may have to make a risk or sacrifice. You won't always get to ride off the suffering and blood, sweat, and tears of other people. And in other communities, once people turn a corner where they realize the price of freedom, it's both a beautiful and ugly thing simultaneously. It's beautiful that people are going to get and want better. It's ugly in what they may have to do to attain it. The more of us that do what we're supposed to do as we're able, the easier the transition to making things better comes. Those that obstinately and stupidly stand in the way are begging for a generation that's willing to clean house within our own ranks. And without sentimentality, I used to do this in my class. Let me give you a very simple example. As a teacher, I was told I couldn't criticize or be sharp on lazy students, or they'd run and complain, he criticized me. So instead of me doing it, I let the millennials be the evaluators of the work of their fellow peers. Do you know the millennials, the young ones, they were 100 times harder than I was towards their own peers? Do you understand that there's a generation that's come up that's harsh and sharp, that's not having it? They're not having it with people in our age group and older, and that they will run a truck over us to get what it is they think they've got to get, and it doesn't mean anything to them. We need to get on code. When you were a baby, Ray Fauntroy, W.B. Du Bois, maybe it was before you were born, gave a speech at Howard University titled The Meaning of Progress. And he talked about the need for Black people to sacrifice and to collectively sacrifice for group gain and uplift. And at the end of the speech, he says, if more or less you're not willing to collectively work together, his comment was, remain hogs, stay pigs, stay dogs, if you won't do what's necessary. And that is a principle that is as true as time, that if we don't do better, it doesn't get better. I don't care what liberal feminists you're swirling with, or how many interracial affairs you've got, or how many brands you have on your ass from which or that Greek letter group or organization. If we don't do better than what we're doing now, we are damned. Keep going, Reverend.
You're absolutely right. And it's just like nothing has changed since that day. And we've had so many speakers and leaders who've spoken out, but the people haven't moved. People haven't done their part. The leaders can only guide you, only tell you what they feel. You have to be willing to step out and do what has to be done. The power is in the people. If the people don't move, there's no power.
That's right.
So what's happening is that we're still following the enemy. We're following the enemy. We're doing what the enemy wants us to do.
Right.
And we won't get anywhere that way. We will suffer. Our children will suffer.
Right.
And our people as a whole will suffer. Now, everybody knows that we are a majority on the planet. There's no question about it. There's never been a doubt in my mind who was the majority. And they started calling us minorities. I went straight to the sky. I said, they got to be crazy. Washington, D.C. at that time was 80% Black, if not more. Okay? Okay, and all the white folk lived outside of Washington, but they ran the government with the mayors and the commission, and that didn't make any sense. I was a member of the Young Democrats at that time, and as a matter of fact, I became president of the Young Democrats. But I didn't like it. I didn't like the politics. That's what they were to me then and are now. So I said to people, they wanted me to run for the commission, the council there. I wouldn't do it. And I thank God for that, because I refuse to be caught up in a system that has done nothing but oppress us, our people. From the time they came and took over, they came in time, found us here in peace, living together.
Mm-hmm.
And they came to kill, steal, and destroy. That's exactly what happened in the United States. And I say that to say this. I couldn't figure out why I could get no support in Miami for what was going on. I mean, people just wouldn't show up. They wouldn't, contribute to anything. Wanted you to obey Budweiser and the rest of them,
Hold on. You're saying people wouldn't show up and wouldn't help and wouldn't participate, but say it differently, Doc. You mean until something hurt them personally, then they'd want you to do something. This is what I found about Black folks. They're so selfish and petty and pathetic and apathetic. They will not join or band together because they don't want you to get something that they don't get. But when they get raped, beaten, or mugged, then the whole world is supposed to stop and support them, although they support nobody. And then they have an attitude that there's not an infrastructure to shield or help them in their time of need. Now, is that what happened? Or was it that people handled their own business and didn't come to you? Because the way you said it, it's that people wouldn't volunteer, wouldn't give, wouldn't donate. But please tell me I'm wrong, that folks didn't come to you as individuals when they had a problem. Help me. Am I right or am I wrong?
Well, no, you're not wrong. But what it is, I learned later, that it wasn't that they wouldn't come. They didn't feel the pain.
That's the same point. That's the same point. It's the same point.
There's another part to that. And the other part is the people here in Miami, Florida, at that time and maybe now, were mostly immigrants. The Black people were Blacks from the island who did not experience what we had experienced here in the States.
Okay, so these are non-FBA, or I use the term DAFTA, which stands for Descendants of Aboriginal and Forcibly Trafficked Africans in America. That's my term, DAFTA. I love it. There's also ADOS and FBA, or B1, Black American. You understand what I'm saying? So you're saying that all these foreign Black people, the people that, have come over recently, they were good with however things were. They didn't have a problem. Everything was great in America.
From what I understand, they could not understand why we didn't have anything, why we were drug addicts and homeless and ignorant and all of those things. So they like to go say to me tonight, we're going to get to where the money is. Okay.
Now, I've got a question regarding Huey Newton. Did you ever meet the Panthers? I know they had a small chapter here in D.C.
Of course, I met some of it. I never met Huey Newton.
Mm-hmm.
I never met Huey, but we all had the same ideas. It was the approach. How do you achieve this? I didn't think that we need to carry our guns openly.
I agree. In fact, what do you think of that group? They were down in Florida, the Not Fucking Around Coalition, the guys that show their guns up everywhere and got on all the tactical gear, so they used some of their stimulus money to look like they were all decked out for war. Did you see them?
That's just another game being played on us. Those guys are all paid for, bought and paid for.
Okay, hold on. You're saying that the Not Fucking Around coalition is bought and paid for?
In my opinion, yes. You don't dress in military outfits and have all these weapons and march up and down the street if you're serious about causing change. That is not going to change. That's not going to change anything. What that's going to do is get a lot of people murdered.
Yes, sir.
That's what that's going to do.
So you feel that the Not Fucking Around coalition, showing the guns and running around in military gear, it basically empowers people who hate the very people that they say they want to help. Is that's what you see?
This is a spiritual warfare. We wrestle not against flesh and blood. And anytime you're going to use their methods to achieve what you think you're going to get, then you're going to fall into their trap. They've got more weapons, of course. They got more anger. They've got more evil. They're murderers. They're killers. So we're smarter than that, and we're smarter than all of the things that they do. We can solve these problems, but we don't attempt to solve the problem. We are trying to get some money from the people who caused the problem. Okay? Dr. King had it right. Stop buying where you're not wanted. Stop going into these places and spending your money. Okay? What I did when that happened, I tried to get us organized down here so that we could understand one thing. We don't own anything in our communities. They have killed every black business that existed here. Came back and want to give you a loan for not enough money to do whatever it is you're trying to do, and then cause you to fail. So I said, okay, let's start with the gasoline industry. And I asked, we found there were 7 black-owned, no, it wasn't 7, anyway, there were some black-owned gasoline stations. So we printed up flyers. I printed up flyers because we couldn't get help from the community. And I distributed those flyers everywhere I could to say, if you're going to buy gas, buy it from this station. This is a black-owned station. Buy it from them. You know, the black businessmen here would not support that.
Right.
So if we all buy gas, and we all do, and if we all bought our gas from black-owned stations, don't you think we'd have some more black-owned stations somewhere and running them? As it stands right now today, we don't have maybe 1 or 2 if we got those. And all of the clerks and the workers in these stations are foreigners who just got here. They can come here and get a job right away, but you can't.
That's correct.
You can come
That's
from
correct.
the SBA, you can't. The banks will finance them, but they won't finance you. So we got to take a message from that and understand. Okay, no problem. We're gonna put our own money in our own bank. We're gonna finance our own businesses. We're gonna spend our money where we own. That's very simple. That's a very simple answer. Well, what you gonna do when the police show up? Well, the police are criminals. You gotta call it like it is. They support a criminal organization that's running this country. Okay? And we got to understand that that's what's going on. It's about the money. And they don't care about the people. And that's not just black people, y'all. That's all people. They don't care as long as it's money. And the white boys are beginning to find that out. That's what you saw last week. They're tired too, but they don't know how to handle it. You know, it's not a racial issue. It's not black versus white is wrong versus right. Every brother ain't a brother. Every white man ain't your enemy. But you got to come together and understand that we have a common problem and there's a common solution, but we cannot do it alone.
Right.
Grant can't do it by himself. I can't do it by myself.
I certainly can't do it by myself. I have a comment from Mark Jones. He said that in New York City, the black immigrants have destroyed unity among the foundational black Americans. Someone at 400-year org, they're saying in Florida that the foreigners have destroyed that. And I absolutely, oh, you're ADOS in the Bay Area. Okay. All I can say to you is that I am not anti. I got a call today, it's funny, from a woman from Congo who's making progress doing stuff to help people in Congo. My mother helped her. Do you know, I stopped speaking to her because I was putting stuff on my Facebook page dealing with coons. And this African woman began attacking me after my mother saved her ass. I'm just saying, never done anything against, never criticized her country, but she put her mouth in my thing, and I stopped talking to her. Now, she finally got someone to give me a number, and I don't deal with her much. I'm going to have to sit down and tell her face to face that this thing that you did, where you come from, it makes enemies for life. Why would you think it would be different here if you did it to me? If I'm fighting for something for Black Americans, I'm not bothering anyone from Congo. Why would you see to put your mouth in it? What possessed you? I've never tried to only help you. Why did you need? You should have shut up instead of getting in it. And we have to learn how to be a people. And I am a reciprocal conditional Pan-Africanist. I don't run after people from anywhere but here, and I don't even beg coons. I don't want to be unified. When you talk about unity, there's unity and there's junity. Junity is what we typically have. I'll get into that in another conversation. I don't want junity. I want unity. Okay, and unity doesn't require that many people. Oh, you were put in Facebook jail for calling John Lewis a coon. You should have called him a queen, too. By the way, you knew John Lewis. What's your take on John Lewis? Oh, good. I got my little chicken, y'all. My John Lewis chicken. I'm John Lewis, the homoerotic chicken of the forest. I want white acceptance at the expense of the sovereignty and self-determination of my people. Plus, I like bending over with fine white men. Okay, it's your turn. John Lewis. What about John Lewis?
Well, John Lewis fought one of the strongest battles we've had in the country when people was really asleep.
Okay, that's in the 60s.
Huh?
In the 60s, I'll give him. I'll give John Lewis anything he wants up until 1970. But the problem is 1970 is 51 years ago. Now, after 1970, what's your thought on John Lewis? Because he's told us a million times, I got beat down at Edmund Pettus Bridge with Martin Luther King when the police, and he forgave the policeman that beat his ass too. This stuff is damaging. So, I mean, I know that he was great getting beat back then, but now he's no longer with us. But after 1970, that's where a lot of younger people, no disrespect towards you, can't stand people in your generation, Elder, because they want us to remember before practically we were born and give them honor and credit to what used to happen, which is fine. If I'm in a relationship and I used to be faithful to my wife and pay the bills like 10 years ago, if I've cheated for 9 years and brought her VD, should she still keep me and honor me as the same person when I cease to be the effective person?
Well, I can only say this. Those of us...
I can't hear you.
Those of us who are serious in the civil rights movement in this country...
Your voice is really low.
Let me try it again. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. Those of us who are serious in the civil rights movement in this country, those of us who have suffered some of the most vicious attacks on ourselves and our families, and it's been a well-kept secret because the blame has always been put on those who are doing the battle. And we have not understood yet how we need to come together, finance our own cause, and back up whoever we select to lead us.
Mm-hmm.
And we haven't done that. I don't know what John Lewis went through after being beat up, knocked in the head, put in jail, and whatever else happened to him there. We don't know. But the point is, he took a stand, and we don't need to let that go. We don't need to, attack that.
We'll agree and disagree. Nobody dismisses what used to be. Where we have a problem and why the older generation's about to get purged by the younger black people is that people are not being honest about the fundamentals. When John Lewis can be silent about black children being trafficked in Georgia, but is talking about these immigrant kids, these illegals in these jails in Texas, I'm sorry. It makes people from your generation look like enemies to we younger black people. And a decided enemy when people refuse to see that we're not taking away what people used to do that was right. We're talking about what they're doing, part of my language that's fucked up right now. And we're saying, give us a break. So part of why we don't have a unity, one reason, is there is a lack of a willingness to hold people accountable, irrespective of generation, whether they made a contribution that was major years ago. If you're messing it up now, you need to step down and being in a position of leadership. You should take care of you, get rich, whatever, but don't facilitate other people pressing us. And to the extent that John Lewis pushing this LGBTQ and these illegals and this other stuff on black people is treason. You are old enough to remember, because it's in your generation, the head of France was named Marshal Pétain. Marshal Pétain was the leader of the French when they were conquered by the Germans. He was a major hero in World War I. But when World War II came along, he was down with the Nazis and even having his own people killed to cooperate with the Nazis after his people were beaten. And so to this day, Marshal Pétain doesn't have the full complement of respect among French people because he was heroic in the teens. And then he became a collaborator with the Nazis who killed and persecuted French people. That is the situation by which we see John Lewis. For the older black people to refuse to see it, that's a disconnect. We get Edmund Pettus Bridge. We get the Montgomery bus. No, he wasn't there. We get the Freedom Rides. We see all the beatings. Yeah, we give that. Honor to that. But right now, okay, when Cynthia McKinney needed help from John Lewis and other things, this man, when black people were being murdered in Libya, he supported that. In Haiti, he supported that. Don't tell me about 1965. I can be a good person that commits murder in my 80s or in my 70s or 60s. I'm still a killer no matter how good I was long before. Like Phil Spector, who just died. Phil Spector's a great producer of music, but he shot that woman in the house. And you can take acts that discount or that basically strip you of your greatness. And this is how a lot of us see John Lewis.
Okay, I understand that. But let me say this. I wrote a song. It goes like this. Oh, boy. Everybody wants to tell your story, but they really don't know the truth. Who can give your testimony? No one like you. Where were you when I went through the storm? And I cried all night long. Get the message?
Mm-hmm. We're hearing that. We're hearing you, brother. We hear that. No disrespect. People are acting like we're insensitive based on, this is a problem. I'm going to just tell you. and it's something that younger Black people hate about older Black people, and y'all refuse to hear us. We get the suffering, but the same. But hold it. You said you hold it. Huey Newton, and the other people beat up John Lewis in the 60s.
And the reason you can't get away with it is this. John Lewis would not have gone through what he went through had we all stuck together. And many others, Walter Fauntroy would not have gone through what he's gone through if we had all stuck together. And that includes the young people. And I say to the young people today, God chose the old because we know the way. He chose the young because you are strong. And you can't make it without us, and we can't make it without you.
Well, there's but we have a problem, Doc. I have encountered, because I'm a generation or two behind you, my experience with a lot of the older people is they felt that they didn't need us. And a lot of folks will agree with me that because you weren't there then, you don't matter now. And the problem is that hold it. I didn't say you like this. I'm saying many, and this is a real problem that folks don't want to deal with. They can't hear. You can't talk to them. In fact, no disrespect, these older generations are imperious. They have no concept of how unfair that they are around this. And the problem is my generation that's been tyrannized by the older two generations. I turn 56 next month. We're headed towards being old, and we've been blocked by that attitude. We haven't taken root in what we were supposed to do, elder. So what happens, we're going to die, say, next 5, 10, 15 years because people live about 70 years. What happens is the generations of 2 or 3 that are behind me would never had people in my age group and do what they were supposed to do, and subsequently the group behind us didn't do what we're supposed to do, then the failures continued. But the difference is this group that Betty Wright said that they don't mind killing. What's so amazing to me, because I've watched this with my own eyes, what's been demanded of me is so much more deference and respect for older people than what's demanded of someone that I'm 20, 30, 40, 50 years older than. And I've seen this in families where the parents are really hard on their kids, but they dote on the grandchildren, the great-grandchildren. We can't afford to do that politically, where we crush the generation closest to us, and then we lavish the 2 further down, because as a result of having done that, the wisdom, when this generation that's somewhere between, say, 80 or whatever, 80 plus to about, say, 65, when they die, the generation just behind them won't have it, won't be in the position to pass it. And that's part of the problem right now.
But you see, that's what your job is. That's what my job is.
Oh, I'm doing my job. That's why we gave John Lewis hell.
But you wake them up with positives. You wake them up with positives. You have to teach them. You have to let them know that what they've been taught is a lie. And they need to know who they are. They need to know the power that we have as a people. That's one of the things I said to Dr. King. And I said, when I used to go with them throughout the South to the churches where people would have no shoes, would have coveralls and, no shirt and tie like we had. We were shirt and tie. You go to church, you got to have a shirt and tie on. And they would, it just blew my mind to see the realness and to see the faith and the truth that was in those churches. So I said to Dr. King, I said, Doc, the problem as I see it, our people don't know who we are. We really don't know who we are. We're trying to be like this oppressor. We're trying to dress up like him, look like him, act like him, talk like him, and do the things he wants us to do. Trying to be friends with him. He is not a friend. Okay, he's a murderer and he's a killer. He takes everything that you have. And if the only one that will stop him is you. And you must take the stand. You must stand on your own 2 feet and stare them down. Okay? Now, just to be honest with you, that happened here. That happened here. We had 50,000 people in the street one time. Y'all probably never saw it up there. I got pictures of it. At one time, saying enough. And that's how we got them out of Chrome Detention Center. But after that, they got out of Chrome Detention Center and sided with the money. Well, we want to live like everybody else, and we want cars and houses and jobs. And so they got them, and they kicked us out. So right now, the African Americans, those who the descendants of slaves here, and those who were indigenous, who were born here, and were here when these conquistadors and these pilgrims showed up. We were here, and for those people who've been disrespected and murdered off, there has been no education. Some of these kids don't know anything about our true history. Why? Because they were going to schools that teach lies. They don't teach them the truth. George Washington was the first president of the United States. Lie.
But you know what? You know what they're really teaching young people now that isn't white, that I'm concerned about? They're teaching them John Lewis. That's that's absolutely frightening to me, to teach John Lewis
we are allowing them to teach it, and we need
oh no, we're not allowing. Our generation isn't allowing the John Lewis thing.
Well,
they
get organized and bring in other people, and it ain't just your generation, it's all of our generation. And we need to tell the truth about those who went before us, but to the point where we can do better. And we have to teach these kids to teach the truth. Come out of this. I'd raised my two boys at home. He educated them at home. I had to finally send them to mixed schools when they got a 9th and 10th grade, but they were so far ahead of the others. My point is, until we decide to raise and teach our own children to stop playing these church games where they follow the curriculum of the system, you have a curriculum. Teach your own curriculum. Let your children know who they are. Let them know that we were the richest people on the planet, and still are, but we don't know how to use our money.
Well,
we give it away.
Now, I tell you what I'm going to do. We absolutely need to do this often, if you would be so kind. I didn't want to hold you too long because I know that you are dealing with something there domestically, and I don't want you to endure. You're welcome to come back. We need to work with you on just putting this out here, and I want to see if I can get you with some buyer. Let me just thank you. This is everybody listening. This is the voice of Reverend Dr. Raymond Fauntroy of Washington, D.C., who now lives in the Miami-Dade County and is a fighter, a musician, artist, human rights defender, entrepreneur, father, and all of that. And you'll see and hear from him again. I'm certain if you Google, you will find he's a frequent guest on radio and so forth for many, many years. One of the most important things is he was the leader of the Black community in Southern Florida when they had leadership. So I want to stop here for a second. We've been at this for just about an hour and a half. I know I want to honor him because he needs to rest. I'm going to see if I can pull up my next two guests. Thank you, Reverend Dr. Raymond Fauntroy. You must come back again. We must have more conversations.
Well, I'm looking forward, my brother. I appreciate you. And I hope that you will continue your work.
Oh, yes.
And we should speak. God bless you. Have a good night.
God bless you. Good night. Thank you, COONBUSTERS. You know my elders. I love my elders. I love my elders. But Lord Jesus, I'll tell you. Hold on one second. I'm going to see. How would y'all like? I have another. I want other people to be in touch. If you ever want to reach, if you've got platforms to have Brother Ray on, let me know. You have, where is it? Wow. Okay. I need to put anybody that wants to reach Ray. you can absolutely email me. I don't hide people from one another, and I'm going to see if I can get another guest. I'd like to do another program if at all possible. How would y'all feel about that? Let me see. It is 10:58. I can have another person on within 10 to 15 minutes. How do y'all feel? Y'all want to do another segment? I've got some other people. In fact, let me call Chuck Hicks. I'm going to stop here on YouTube. Anybody on YouTube here, you can go and follow me on the stream. You can follow me on the stream. I'm going to close this YouTube here. There's just 28 here, 106 on the StreamYard, and I'm going to do some more. Let me close this one here. Let me see if I can get Sambaya. If not, if I don't get him, I might get my herbal friend. Let me see.
Hey Randy, how you doing?
I'm fine. I'm recording. I don't know if you're interested in doing a broadcast, but you're free to come on. I have 109 people, and I'm thinking we could talk about herbs. We can talk about everything that's going on if you'd like. I would call you on the studio line. What do you think of that?
No, I'm getting ready to head to bed.
You're going to bed. That's good. Please go to bed. Now, you want to wake up and find out that Biden's in jail? I hope so, too.
I hope so, too. I hope it really does happen.
Well,
instead of all this whispering about it, I really hope it happens.
Well, we do. We need it to happen. I tell you what, what I will do is let this go here. I'll get back to you. Here's Sambaya. This is who I'm reaching for. Let me let you rest.
Okay, I'll give you a call tomorrow.
All right. Okay.
Okay.
Good night.
I mean, I do have my granddaughter, but only have her for 3 hours.
Right. Hold on one moment, please.
Okay.
Sambaya? Hello? Oh, wow. I lost it. Hold on one second. Okay, I have this elder here.
Hey, Randy, how you doing?
I'm good, Sambaya. I am recording. I don't know if you're free now or if I can get you tomorrow, but I feel like I'll be okay at this point.
Well, it's up to you. You can do it right now if you want to.
Okay, I do. Actually, I'm going to put together a program. I'm going to go ahead and plug in. I've got to figure out where I put.
You speaking on please.
Say that again.
You said you want me to get a program together.
Oh no, I'm putting a program together. I simply need to put something in the computer so I can announce it to the audience. So what I'm going to do is call you from a studio number. You don't do YouTube, do you?
Yeah, I do YouTube.
You do YouTube. Do you do video, or do you only want to do voice?
You can coach me on how to do that.
Okay.
I guess you have your own YouTube channel.
Right. I would send you a link through email. Azima.
Oh, okay. Oh, excuse me. How much does that cost?
It's free.
Okay, well, I think I would, you can coach me on another issue.
Okay, I would.
How I can get my own YouTube channel.
Oh, a YouTube channel is it's free if you just set it up. But what I'll do is I'll do the phone. I'll simply call you today, and we'll do the video later. I'm going to call you from the studio phone, and Azima, I need to move on and do this while I have this brother here. Can I talk to you tomorrow?
Sure, fine.
Okay.
All right, no, you hang on. You hang on, Sambaya. I'm switching out. Okay, I'm about to call you from another number. Okay. You should be getting a call from me now.
Okay.
I think I'm dialing the right number. Is your number not ringing?
Yeah, hi. Okay.
I'm gonna let you go, Raymond.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
I will call you. I'll call you again.
Am I on the number now?
Yeah, you got the right number. Okay, now let me get this moving. 1 second as I put this on. Everybody in the chat room, I'm going to do two things. I'm going to create another program, which simply means that I'm going to ask folks to come back in exactly about 6 minutes, because I'm right here with the guest. I simply want to put a different segment name on it. Are y'all with me? Okay, so hang on everybody, there are 109 of you. I'm about to close this screen out and put another one on. I will be back in 5-6 minutes max. Please come back at 11:15. 11:15. I will be back. I'm going to simply do another platform. So I'm going to shut this and I'll be right back. Peace. I'll be right back. Oh, no.